Hi colleagues, this year we'll be doing something a bit different with the monthly messages. I'll begin each session with a brief introduction, and then we will move into a conversation with one or two members of the Group Leadership Council. We're starting today with Lungisa Fuzile, Chief Executive of Africa Regions and Offshore, and David Hodnett, Chief Executive of SBSA. But before we get to that conversation, a couple of quick points. First, as I'm sure you have seen, there's been a lot of excitement about artificial intelligence lately. Fair enough, it's an exciting technology, but we all need to take a deep breath and get some perspective. A good place to start is with the 29 January edition of The Economist and recent articles in the Financial Times. You can get those through the Knowledge Center. Next, take a look at My Learning powered by Degreed on our intranet, where you will find several excellent learning pathways on AI. Empower yourself to use AI to lift yourself and all of us humans higher up the value chain into more creative, more productive, and more fulfilling work. Second, I'm sure you've seen some of the media coverage about Nedbank's announcement that they are going to acquire a controlling interest in a major Kenyan bank. What does this mean for us? Well, one obvious thing is that there will now be more competition in an already competitive environment. That's good news. We thrive on competition. This news also confirms that we've been right all along. Kenya is an extremely attractive market. I had the great pleasure of visiting Stanbic Kenya last week. These colleagues are an extremely talented, motivated, and energetic bunch of people who are winning in their markets. They are well on their way to becoming one of the top 3 banks in Kenya. What I've just said about East Africa actually applies to the whole continent. We remain 100% convinced that this is the African century. The economy of sub-Saharan Africa will grow faster than 4% per year for the period to 2028. From the 2030s onwards, Africa will become the world's fastest growing region, the breadbasket, manufacturing hub, and services center of the world. As I saw last week, Kenya is buzzing with entrepreneurial energy in every sector, from agribusiness to ITC. You get the same feeling in many other countries across the continent, from Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire in the west to Uganda and Tanzania in the east, and from Mozambique and Namibia in the south to Egypt in the north. As The Economist also points out, there are also exciting developments in 2 of the largest African economies, Nigeria and South Africa. Nigeria's prospects have been boosted by a brave and successful reform of the currency market. And South Africa's structural reforms are clearly working. South Africa's GDP growth rate has more than doubled over the past 2 years. Our economists expect gross fixed capital formation to turn positive this year, with the result that GDP growth will continue to accelerate. So that sets the scene. This is going to be a year with a lot of technological progress and with a lot of exciting growth throughout our continent. With that, let's invite David and Lungisa to join the conversation. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you today?
Morning, Sim. I look really good, really excited for the year ahead as we'll get through today. Thanks.
I'm doing just fine, Sim.
On a serious note, 2026 promises to be a humdinger. What do you think it'll look like for each of Africa Regions and SBO and then SBSA? And what excites you most about the year? And perhaps let's start with you, Lungisa.
Sim, we first ended 2025 quite strong. Some of that momentum is evidently carrying on into 2026. The IMF, in its regional economic outlook, projects that Sub-Saharan Africa will grow by 4.6%. That's quite significant. And of course, an important part of that is going to be driven by East Africa, which is set to grow at about 5%. There is a lot of optimism, relative macroeconomic stability on the continent. We've seen a few currencies even strengthen somewhat, vis-a-vis the dollar. So there is no doubt that the foundations of strong economic performance are there. And we've done a lot to set up SBO to play a critical role in the offering that we're giving to our customers. There is clarity of what as a group and the various BUs aim to achieve with it. What remains now is diligent execution. And I'm quite positive that the team will rise to the occasion and accomplish the task.
It's very exciting. Thank you, Lungisa. David?
Yeah, so some probably along a similar line. I say to a lot of people that the current period kind of feels like the early 2000s.
Feels like the golden age of banking.
Yeah, it was. That 2000 to 2004 was fantastic. And I know we've got the overhang of potential geopolitical issues. GDP growth in South Africa is definitively not good enough. But despite that, when you just walk in the street, speaking to clients, speaking to colleagues, there's a level of optimism. There's like South Africa feels like it's on an up. And then related to that, because I think we've got to execute into that, is like everything we touch in at the moment is opportunity. So despite the fact that we talk about a 1.6% GDP growth, everything that we touch from our business point of view, and we're a mature business, is potential for double-digit growth.
When you survey the world and you look at the global trends, won't you just drill in on some of those global trends and talk to us about how you see them as opportunities, including without limitation, artificial intelligence, stable coins, CBDCs, tokenized assets, and so forth?
You know, what's great, Sim, about some of those global trends that you have mentioned is that they are occurring at a time when the continent appears to be far more ready to adopt them, to leapfrog development, to be able to do or achieve much faster growth. And of course, as an institution that operates in 21 geographies on the continent, we too stand to benefit from trends such as artificial intelligence, to be able to improve the speed, the quality, the efficiency with which we service our customers. And you can see readiness amongst our colleagues, our teams on the ground to begin to ride that wave. You would have noticed, of course, that among other things, there is a great focus on trade. People are embracing the positives that come with trade. The trend of investing in corridors in West and East, which then means that Africa is ready to participate in global supply chains, facilitate quick, efficient movement of goods and services across borders in ways that help contribute to improving economic activity, raising standards of living, and of course propel economies faster forward.
David, on your side?
Yeah, so before I talk about the trends, I'd actually start with the area that worries me, despite the optimism. And the kind of...
You can't beat the risk out of you, right?
Yeah, you can't. That's right. And what worries me more than even 6 months ago is the level of competition. I mean, despite South Africa being a fairly mature market, you feel like the level of competition is just increasing. Whether it's Sanlam and Time joining up, whether it's a launch of Old Mutual Bank, whether it's Discovery and Capitec saying they're going into Business Bank, whether it's Revolut coming into the country in 2027, there's just a lot of competition. And with that, I think what's happening is some of these trends that we talk about, AI, payments, they're definitely moving, but they're actually going to move faster with that competition. If we were the only one doing it, whether we executed fast or slow was probably okay. With the level of competition, if we are not just brilliant at execution and faster than our peer group, we'll fall behind. And therefore, some of those trends, like AI, how I think about AI, if we are going to have the best payments experience because the payment system is opening up and there's going to be more competition, if you don't use agentic AI in your payments experience, you are not going to be better than your peer group. So it's just about understanding the competitive position and then making sure that those trends are implemented in the areas that we just have to win.
Excellent. I think you've both hinted at it, but maybe quickly on taking those trends into account, what are the must-win battles then that'll get us to meet our targets for 2028?
I mean, Sim, there are things we've got to continue doing and not take for granted. It doesn't help to think about the very sophisticated stuff if the basics we don't get right. So we must get that right. Secondly, internally, the way in which we organize ourselves as a phenomenal institution that offers this universal financial services offering. It's quite important to make sure that we pick up these differentiators, the things that are quite unique to us. I mean, I cannot help but think, for example, going back to the example of offshore, not many banks have got that, and we have it. You know, we can enable African businesses, African entrepreneurs, African individuals to invest in a whole range of offerings offshore. That not everyone can do that. And we've got to really capitalize on those kinds of strengths. I don't know how David feels about these things.
Perhaps, David, just to pick up on what Lungisa is saying, do you want to just maybe speak about what are the things you're thinking about that will really wow and delight our customers?
For me, is if we don't obsess about the customer experience, all of the implementations that we talk about, whether it's card modernization, doing stuff on PaySharp in South Africa, is interesting but irrelevant. So all of it just has to lead to an unbelievable customer experience that we've got to wow. And for me, underline all of that, and it speaks to one of the trends that we talked about earlier, if you don't win in payments and the payments experience, you're going to battle to engage the customer. And if you battle to engage the customer, all the other things that I'll talk about just now become very hard to do because a customer is engaging through another channel. So if we want to sell insurance or we want to sell investments, but the customer is not engaging with you, well, you can't do that. So I think we just got to obsess about the customer experience, especially around payments this year. It just needs to be really clear for our customers, simple for our customers. And then the operational part for me, and it's a little bit of what was said now, is I don't think there's a whole lot of new things that we have to do. We just have to execute brilliantly. So the opportunities are, we will become the best energy and infrastructure bank in South Africa. So with the growth that's going to happen in South Africa around infrastructure, we have to dominate in that area. So that's clear to us. In the BCB space, we have to be the best SME bank, despite Discovery, despite Capitec. So there's work that we're doing there. And I think we'll come to some interaction with the business units, but that includes winning in insurance and investments, not just in BCB. IAM has to play a role with that. And in the individual space, we've got to win in investments, insurance, including our offshore offering. So we're very clear about the areas that we've got to win, but for all of it, our overlay, if your customer is not interacting with you smoothly, those areas of winning become very difficult.
Brilliant. So David's hinted at it, Lungisa. Please just talk to us about the areas of collaboration. I mean, this juggernaut is on the move, right? And I'm tempted to say it's going to crush the competition as it moves. But what are the areas where people will get us to move faster by collaborating?
Let's take a good area like trade. If you think about it, we bank big corporates and, of course, medium-sized and smaller corporates. Now, there are smart ways, there should be smart ways in which we can connect these, have them partner, so that the big corporates enable the medium-sized and smaller enterprise to participate in those value chains. Now, they don't have to necessarily be engaging in large-scale international trade between Africa and other continents per se. But once things land in Africa, having those businesses exposed to one another, and we bank all of them, in ways that ensure that they can facilitate trade, in which case they then afford us the opportunities to do a whole range of other businesses that we are known to be good at. FX, insurance, hedging, and all that kind of stuff. Because once we connect them in ways that expose each of them to more business than they would ordinarily be exposed to, that will strengthen their attraction to us and ensure that there is stickiness in the relationship we have with them.
Superb. David, more on collaboration?
We've got to get all our internal teams aligned. So what I mean by that is, I don't care if you're frontline, I don't care if you're risk, I don't care if you're compliance, I don't care if you're legal. We've all got one objective, and that is to get the best outcome for our customer. We've all got a role to play within that. So the example I'll give is something, if you're saying we want to be the best in payments experience, and we're going to use agentic AI in that process, then everybody has to line up to make sure that we can implement it. Risk must, of course, ask the right questions about how models have been implemented. Legal must worry about contracts that we've got with AWS and hyperscalers, etc. But everyone's job is to make sure it's implemented in the best way and in the fastest way possible. So I think we just got to make sure all of our teams internally are just speaking the same language. That's what they all are trying to deliver. Then the next one is the inter-BU one. I think if we just start obsessing about the customer, we cannot deliver to the customer if we're not working together. So pretty much every area that we touch, whether it's winning in SME, winning in payments, winning in insurance, winning in investments, if the business units aren't working together, we are not going to be the best. And what I've found in the process that we've gone through is, one, the focus on customer and what's right for the group. And then I think we start winning.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, your last comment, what message would you want to leave our colleagues with as we navigate this year together?
It's amazing to see just how hard our teams are working. I mean, I've been to several countries last year on the continent, and of course I walked the corridors here in Rosebank in David's business. And of course it shows in the results, and I think that it would be remiss for us not to express gratitude for that. Now, here is 2026, awash with a high degree of optimism, even if it's cautious optimism. I would say to them that we must really focus on our customers, to David's point. Our strategy is correct. Driving investment in infrastructure and energy on the continent is just the right thing to do. And of course, we've got to be very mindful that big projects, important as they are, because they facilitate economic activity, but they are not necessarily the greatest creators of employment. That's why Bill's business is exceedingly important, and making sure that we build our capabilities in the BCB space so that we can also enable increased investment in those businesses too, because they employ the largest numbers of people. They are known for making the biggest contribution to GDP and, of course, wealth creation. Without a doubt, if we partner with our customers in ways that enable them to accomplish their ambitions, we will succeed in the next 160 years.
Davi?
Yeah, probably three simple messages for me. One is, be confident. We are already winning, but we're going to be the best in every area that we choose to be. The second message for me is, keep winning in the delivery, but we've got to fundamentally increase our cadence of delivery. We've got to be quicker at delivery than we were around it. And the last one is, obsess about customer experience. If your customer experience is not brilliant, you're not going to win.
Many thanks, David and Lungisa. You've covered all the points brilliantly. Just one more thing. Colleagues, as you think about the year ahead, keep our values and habits in mind. Remember that they are a very useful guide to decision-making and a highly practical guide to action. Try it. Next time you are facing a difficult decision, pull up the values and the habits and read through them. You will find that the right answer becomes much clearer. And remember, be kind, look after yourself, serve our clients brilliantly. Keep on growing Africa. Let's go out there and win.